Welcome, come on in. I wondered if you'd be able to find us. The signs we put up tend to go missing, but that's okay. Have a seat. We were all just talking about a video we watched. Sasquatch Chronicles, Episode 187, Mountain Giants. These comments were posted to their YouTube channel on November 5th, 2018. Wes interviews Duke about mountain giants. Big V3185 said, Warcraft is not an imaginary movie. Wake up, folks. U.S. Exotics Ltd. said, Grendel size, tusks, biting heads off, matches the Norse legend fairly well. Replies, Bo Grover 8880 said, Where do you think those stories came from? Jeff Coker 4880 said, Legend, only legend. World Bigfoot Radio 3933 said, Jeff Coker, just keep telling yourself that. Back to post. Brad Beaton 6466 said, 25 guys with 338 Remington Ultra Mags or 50 cals would drop the giant. Replies. Stephen Deatley 4878 said, one good hit in the brain will stop anything. Vibe 2 Light said, what about a contingency plan for infrasound assault and other heat of battle chaos? My guess is that the giant will retreat from your attack plan but bide its time, waiting for you to pass on its strategic ambush ground. Tiger Shaw 8342 said, the giants described in the Middle East are very fast, thick and nimble, very tactical to take out a fully armed squad of 9. The second squad took it down. Creepy, very creepy. Be afraid, people, be very afraid. The giants are returning for human flesh. User TN6UX8ZG1 said, aim for the head. Back to post. Amanda Shank 9362 said, I'm only 30 minutes in, but so sick of people afraid of bringing up the Bible. The Bible speaks of these red-haired, pale-skinned giants, just like the Kandahar giant had red hair, pale skin. The David and Goliath story wasn't just a children's story. David had to kill Goliath between the eyes, just like the Marines had to repeatedly shoot the giant in the face. They were taught to aim high in the cave regions. Obviously, Wes and this guy are non-believers, but it's bias. Wes always talks about people being non-biased, so it's definitely ironic. Lost Eden said, never seen a pic of a mountain giant like Bigfoot, have lots of videos and pictures. Reply. Bo Grover 8880 said, a lot more rare, and they stay up in the mountains. They don't come down often. Natives also talk about how they go lengths of times with no issues, then for no reason they would attack and eat natives. Back to post. Olson LR said, what happened to the hunters who shot the Bigfoot? Replies. Sam Lot 99 said, Larry Olson, if you're talking about Rick Dyer, that turned out to be yet another Bigfoot hoax, like the rest. Raft 30 2813 said, Rick Dyer equals hoax. Back to post. Larry Fenderson 8922 said, it's slowly being realized that all of the so-called fairy tales were real accounts. There was a real Jack in England, Jack the Giant Slayer, aka Jack and the Beanstalk. Replies. Kevin Whip F4142 said, they're wild animals, don't get fooled. Might as well go pat a grizzly bear, it doesn't take a genius. Larry Fenderson 8922 said, Kevin Whip, they're more than merely a wild animal, my friend. These are hybrid human beings or animals or something else. Kevin Whip F4142 said, Larry, do you think the humanoid giant from Jack and the Beanstalk are the same as the giants that was shot and killed in Afghanistan or wherever it was by the military, or do you think it was a totally different species like Sasquatch? Joshua Simmons 5354 said, Sam Lott, yeah, you say that, but yet witnesses to Bigfoot or Dogman are completely demoralized beyond normal levels because they can't wrap their head around what they saw. Thrasher 2094 said, Larry Fenderson, I think humans are more so the hybrid of them than they are of us. We are the hybrid between them and something else unknown. They suit the environment and can live in the wild without clothes or modern technology. We can't. Back to post. Larry Fenderson 8922 said, Paul Bunyan, John Henry, the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, these beings actually existed. Abraham Lincoln even spoke of giants in the land. Michael Miller, 9870, said, "It's all about control, my friends. If you don't think you are somewhat of a slave, you're just playing yourself as much as you're being played." User HG9FTSSF8L said, "There is most definitely a government cover-up. The Mount St. Helens eruption killed several Sasquatch, and it was covered up, and as closed mouth as the atomic bomb creation was." Wild Lapina 5634 said, "The Northwest Native Americans at Nia Bay in Washington State have folklore called basket women, and basically it sounds more like giants than Sasquatch." Wild Lapina 5634 also said, "A friend of mine from Seattle told me that her family was interned during World War II in Montana. Ever since the end of the war, her family would do a pilgrimage back to Montana. She said close to the area where the internment was, there is a monument to commemorate the atrocities done to the Chinese miners. The story reads, they were told to go down in the mines, and then the mines were blown up. They were brought here as laborers. Then when the work was done, they wanted to go back to China, and if they didn't agree, they were murdered. The same thing happened to the railroad workers, etc." Max Wedge Photography 2700 said, "You guys should look into the work of Robert Kreider. He has reported finding 24-inch prints in the American Southwest." Replies. Donald Savage 3699 said, "Max Wedge, in my backyard living in Colorado, I made 48 inches of perfect Bigfoot footprints and even pulled down some small trees to fool my cousin visiting my home for the first time. LOL, Bigfoot is a hoax." Clouds Rest 7097 said, "Donald Savage, just because you're a hoax does not mean everything and everyone else is a fraud." Back to post. Higher Truth said, "Awesome stuff, no doubt. Not sure if this is the right video, but my point is that if you haven't seen a Bigfoot or etc. with self-illuminated eyes, doesn't mean they're not real. It's ridiculous to me after people know how bizarre this is, they still want to limit what people know. Like they're all the same and there's no differences. There's too many people that see the self-illuminated eyes. That can't be a coincidence, sometimes with no flash, light, or anything." Jahan 1051 said, "What possible reason would there be to let genetic experiments out in the wild, then make kill teams go out to take them out? I think the so-called insider military info you got and what Will Jevning gets is all BS. Convenient these guys will tell a podcast host some secret stuff, but hold you to secrecy or you guys just don't want to get into it. What's the point of telling you then? Everyone has these amazing pictures and secrets, but never shows it. And we wonder why the subject is ridiculed. No one believes us for this reason." Daniel Andre 4555 said, "Well, if God didn't create the original Sasquatch, and neither did man, guessing by all this interdimensional jumping they are said to do, the only things they could be are either created by aliens or the original Sasquatch are interdimensional beings themselves, and all the subspecies are man-made." Reply. Bo Grover 8880 said, "Fallen angels are literally interdimensional." Daniel Andre said, "I agree 100%. Back to post. One Love 5464 said, "There are hundreds of thousands of people that have gone missing. Also, in the Solomon Islands, they have 3 different kinds, the 7 to 8 foot Bigfoots, short, stocky kind of Bigfoots, and red-haired cannibal giants. So it makes sense that there are different kinds in other places as well." Replies. T-Bull Cajun Breadmaker said, "Actually, the U.S. government came out with their own estimate on how many people go missing just in the U.S., and the figure they came up with was 1 million or more people just in the lower 48 states. Now that is a lot of people that go missing every year." Owl Knicker Knots 2607 said, "Yeah, there's a lot we don't know about." Back to post. Tony South Dakota 8728 said, "If those giants exist, then they would necessarily have to be primarily subterranean." Replies. Ultimate Thanos said, "Or they could blend in with the trees." Owl Knicker Knots 2607 said, "It is very likely they live in caves, that's why they are well hidden." Ultimate Thanos said, of course, subterranean living might explain why they're so big. Just like at the bottom of the ocean, the underground has tremendous atmospheric pressure. Ergo, it could be reasonable to assume that there is a similar phenomenon to the deep sea giantism happening to anything living beneath the Earth's crust. Back to post. Some medic said, the caloric intake of these things would be enormous and a forest wouldn't support it. Reply. Bo Grover 8880 said, how do you know they don't hibernate? Also, how do you know how they digest or how many calories they intake? Back to post. TBG said, I understand people that say Bigfoot doesn't have superpowers, and it sounds dumb saying it like that. But until you see one with the self-illuminating eyes like tons of people have, keep your mind open. Reply. Denise May said, right, nobody can say what they can or can't do. Back to post. Randy Roberts said, the Jolly Green Giant. Wes, when you said we put him on a can of peas, I just about lost it, LOL. That is so true. Ho, 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 Green Giant. They even added a cute little jingle to go with it. Oh, you're so right, Wes, LOL. Doug Billman said, I have heard of folks seeing Sasquatch that are 20 feet tall, so you can't say Sasquatch can't get this big. Do you know how many people go missing in Alaska every year? Unbelievable. Reply. Booster Gold said, I heard it first on Sasquatch Chronicles, number 187, about larger hairy giants in North America. On the show, they named Alaska, the high mountain regions of Montana, and parts of Canada. Back in early December 2018, I fell asleep leaving the computer on. The computer was playing selected broadcasts from a playlist. I awoke to this guy saying, it was hideous. That guest speaker was a guy named Duke on Sasquatch Chronicles 187. Up until then, I had only read accounts about giants which came from the Solomon Islands and the Patagonian Mountains of Argentina. The locals of the Solomon Islands say the creatures range in height from 15 to 20 feet tall. One story from the Solomon Islands stated that construction workers were running a bulldozer in an area on the island, and the bulldozer blade came loose because the pin that held it in place broke. They quit work early that day and came back early the next day to repair the bulldozer. They noted the blade was missing from the spot where the bulldozer was parked. They stated the blade had been moved several hundred feet away. The workers claim that there was no sign of any heavy moving equipment vehicles having been in that area, but there were signs of very large footprints in the soft dirt all around the site. I checked Google, and a bulldozer blade can weigh up to 16,000 pounds, which equals 8 tons. A 7 to 8 foot tall Sasquatch would get a heck of a workout trying to move something like that a mere 2 feet, if at all. But an individual who is almost triple in height could have easily walked off with it, and they would have never found it. Go figure that one. Back to post. Doug Billman said, look up people that go missing in Alaska. They have found Viking skeletons in Minnesota up to 16 feet tall. They all had 2 female Indians buried at their feet. Somehow, the Smithsonian Museum shows up. They take the bones, never to be seen again. The Smithsonian is known for this. No matter where in the world they are, they show up and take everything. There is a lot they are hiding about really big things for a very long time. Perry Stanlesass said, anyone see the European film Troll? Sounds so much like what is being described. I think it was a Scandinavian or Norwegian film about giants around 20 feet tall and taller in remote parts of the country, and the government and relevant agencies trying to keep it quiet until these young investigative journalists try to find out more and ends up in a tragedy. Replies. Richard Beckett said, in the UK it is called Troll Hunter. It's a found footage mockumentary. Definitely worth watching. Booster Gold said, yes, I remember this film. I couldn't get past the first 30 minutes because the movie moved kind of slow, but I will have to go back and watch this film. I almost forgot, since we are talking about movies, watch Quest for Fire. The main protagonist comes into contact with several other races of early humans. If you remember, the tribe's main enemy were these group of individuals who were covered in hair and very strong. Also, while on his quest, he crosses into a territory of cannibalistic humans who were giants, and they had red hair. I wonder where the director got that idea for a movie that was made in 1982. Andy W. said, Troll Hunter, very cool film. Back to post. Hound of Odin said, if that offer of an expedition to get evidence of mountain giants was real, I'm willing to volunteer. I would love to see one of these creatures in the flesh, from a safe distance. Also, why would the government be hunting them down? Are they just that dangerous? Replies. Tiger Shot said, I would travel in a mobile base with a team, safer, and yes, keep my distance. Dr. Bright said, better be super stealthy and unnoticed. Hoyt2X said, I volunteer you to go. Back to post. Donald Savage said, a bunch of baloney. Won't you guys stop lying? I've camped, hunted, and fished just about all over the world, never had one Bigfoot encounter. It's only in storybooks and fairy tales. The only scary part about these hunting trips was financing them. Replies. Tiger Shot said, Legends of Giants is in every culture. Trust me, the Bible mentions giants too. Donald Savage said, Tiger Shot, that's a possibility. And if they are for real, and if they are an abomination to God, we should hunt them all down to extinction. What do you think about that? Would that be good? David Thompson said, why do you listen to this channel? Donald Savage said, David Thompson, for entertainment. Verbal grappling, just like everyone else does. No one really believes any of this hocus-pocus garbage. So on our lunch breaks, most of us are just bored and need something to do in spare time. It's like the minstrel show. Going to the bathroom time, let's all tune in. It's like a contest. My friends and I bet money to see how many knuckleheads respond to our comments. So far, I'm winning by 83 points. No pun intended. Back to post. Rat Rod Ramblin' said, I saw another video where someone commented on a story on iamdarkwaters.com called The Alaskan Expedition. Really interesting story, as well as others how the mountain giants are basically the deputies of the forest, keeping Sasquatch in line. Also, how many other species of unknown quote-unquote Bigfoots are there? Really interesting. Also, the Bible says, as in the days of Noah, so... Replies. Sapiophile said, You've got a nice comment here, but do you know these things were reported even by Columbus? They were the hominids here before us. Reports go way further back than even that. Therefore, this is not end-time phenomena. It's no different than it ever was. DJ Coughlin said, Sapiophile, I believe it's the Viking leader Leif Erikson you're thinking of. I've never heard or read that Columbus had a Sasquatch encounter. If there's any written documentation that Columbus encountered one, I would be very grateful for the info. Denise May said, DJ Coughlin, I don't know about him seeing giants, but have you heard the story documented in the ship's log about a UFO they saw rise right up out of the water? So they've been around for centuries. DJ Coughlin said, Denise May, no, I wasn't aware of that. Back to post. Tiger Shot said, every culture in the world say giants did exist, and they may still be around. MB said, yes, they did exist, and yes, they still exist. Delilah Raynell said, Matt Bronowitz, Matt, I also believe that scientists who meddle in DNA are also creating hybrids. Christians understand that cloning and creating life is a vile and evil act, and do believe they have been creating life for a long time. The Nephilim were hybrids born out of the evil, and I believe these new hybrids will be part of the after that. What do you think? Square Hammer said, Delilah Raynell, that's what I think the dogman came from. Just doesn't make sense that it would be a natural animal. JJ said, Delilah, are you saying that Bigfoot are Rephaim? Because I highly doubt that anybody that might create a human hybrid would be irresponsible enough to just drop it off in the woods for everyone to see. Vera Marie Cano said, JJ, you don't know our government. Vera Marie Cano said, Delilah, look up Dulce, New Mexico. DUMB, Deep Underground Military Bases. There are many of these where experimentation on hybrids take place. Sometimes these hybrids escape. Sometimes the scientists place GPS collars on creatures to release and track. These things are being introduced to the populace, but the time is not yet in God's timing. They will surprise humanity. JJ said, Vera Marie, who does know the government? You seem to know. What would be the purpose of creating a hybrid human, then drop it off in the woods for our national parks, not knowing how these creatures would react? Sure, they could put a tracking device on one and follow it around by satellite or something, but what would be the ultimate goal? Surely, if the government is creating these things, they wouldn't have to research them, as they would probably study them before they were released. And if that's the case, then surely they know how to communicate with them somehow. Maybe it's a new way to address population control of the humans sometime in the future. And did our government have the hybrid human technology in 1967 when the Patterson-Gimlin film was released? What about Native Americans? Were they accusing the government of creating hybrid humans 100 years ago? I don't know our government. I know what our government is capable of. I also know they are not careless and stupid enough to do drop-off hybrid humans in the woods where millions of people visit year-round. I think I know more about our government than you do. It's just common sense. Maybe you can enlighten us all on what our government does and does not do. If you're going to tell someone that they don't know something, then maybe you should explain why. Back to post. Tiger Shot said, I think there is a giant door in Angkor Wat in Cambodia. I think it is where giants dwell, or a gateway to hell. It's made of the same stone as Angkor Wat, very heavy and old. It is hidden. I think it leads to an underground cave. Kev of 895 said, Very good job, guys. I really enjoyed listening to both of you. Y'all are very smart, very informative. Makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your professionalism. The fact that y'all could get along shows how you have respect for each other. Even though both of you have your own show, you still have respect. Great job. Bing's Ballyhoo said, I don't think we should discount the orb lights. Replies. The real Pen L said, Exactly. I wish Wes would man up and stick to his beliefs and not cower when someone says they don't believe in the lights. Wes has said that he has seen the lights and he thinks they are on the demonic side, if I recall correctly. But Wes laughs off the more fringe aspects of Sasquatch and giants when he doesn't want to disagree with Duke. Wes has also said that we shouldn't be so fast to discount the fringe accounts because none of us truly know exactly what is going on. Duke seems like a close-minded individual when it comes to certain things. I don't care for that kind of non-humility. KT said, Well, he's only human. I don't think he would today. This is a 5-year-old episode. He was talking about seeing orbs about 2 years ago. Back to post. Francis Cosoto Cruz said, what about in South America, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, etc.? The conquistadors fight against giants too. Well, that's what they said. Also, here in Central America are myths of giants and small people, goblins. Someone has to start a research and correlation of the myths of the Americas from Alaska to Argentina. Replies. Monkey Bearmax said, Patagonia means land of the big feet. Revolution Underground said, check out Steve Quayle. He has researched this extensively. True Legends and other books. Back to post. User TN6UX8ZG1 said, 18 to 19 feet. Upper Canada. Eats humans. Replies. Ron Mailhu said, the Nahanni Valley in Yukon, River Canyon, with 3,000-foot cliffs. Timmy Normand said, Ron, that's right, bro, the Nahanni River systems. There's some crazy stuff that goes on in that territory. There's a waterfall twice as big as Niagara. Rogan Matthews said, interesting. I'm not opposed to the idea of giants 18 feet tall, but I would need to see one in the flesh personally. The Magician 2704 said, I'm surprised that the Big Horn Dam incident wasn't mentioned. Jason H. said, couldn't these all be Bigfoot with different attitudes? Sounds like normal variation of attitudes to me. The Wolfgang Fritz said, Headless Valley is in and around the Nahanni National Park in the Northwest Territory, in northern Canada, in which the Nahanni River runs through. I'm not sure whether people still go missing up there, or should I say, getting their heads lopped off. It was rumored from up here that it was a mad trapper that tried to keep people out years ago. Daring kayakers, usually. Replies. The Happy Cappy said, I can't recall the video title, but up in the Nahanni, there's a claim of a tribe of hairy people who are not that large, around 5 to 6 feet tall. They don't talk, but live in the forest up there. But they are suspected in killing gold prospectors and trappers. Shakespeare Zen said, there is a great book by a female tribe member that speaks of the Nahanni story in the whole valley of the Headless Men. It is creepy as hell. And a documentary as well by the woman who wrote the book. Back to post. Ellie2B said, as far as the comment on the giants being in the earth as written in Genesis 6, that is questionable. KJV has it as on the earth. New American Standard has it written on. I'm no Hebrew scholar and I don't worship King James. If you look at how the word is used throughout the Old Testament writings, the word is fairly interchangeable. I do believe there are large underground areas where a variety of cryptids could have been hanging out for a very long time. People have found many large underground caverns. Who knows how many are yet undiscovered due to the fact that they have been well hidden. Ellie2B also said, the Watchers, spoken of in relation to the Nephilim, had offspring by human women, but in Enoch it says that they also, quote-unquote, sinned against the mammals, the bird life, and the sea life. That sentence does not indicate a sexual encounter as it is intimated in Genesis 6. It is some kind of abuse penetrated against the animal life. Nephilim were hybrid mighty men. The Watchers never create anything. Their one plan was to pervert humanity and to pervert as much of the creation as possible in order to offend the Creator and make their own kingdom of beings that would worship them. They mingled the DNA of the mammal, sea, and bird kingdom with human DNA. The result were the creatures that we see images of carved into megalithic sites all over the world. Some of them are such a combination of various animals and humans to the point that we see them as demonic beings. They do not resemble any known creature. Most of these entities were all wiped out during the cataclysmic event of Noah's flood. That was not only a rain event, as most people think. It says that there was also a breaking forth of water from under the earth. It does state in Genesis 6 that these beings were on the earth after that cataclysmic event as well. How and why it happened, again, the Bible does not say, but we know that these genetic mix-ups were not as prevalent and not as large after the flood as they were before the flood. It states in the chapter of Genesis that speaks to the Tower of Babel that before the flood, they used only stone to build with. It was only after the flood that they began using brick and mortar. Before the flood, they also carved their writings into stone. Some people believe that after the flood, someone could have found carved writings that contained information that came from the Watchers and how they manipulated genes to create these monstrous hybrids. If someone did find that information, it was a knowledge that was kept in a limited circle and was not shared openly. Some people who believe in the Illuminati say that it is them that had various types of knowledge that came from the Watchers. I'm not into that, but I do believe that some of the cryptids were made through genetic manipulation long ago. We know that today science has the knowledge that enables them to create such monstrosities once again. There are enough twisted minds within governments around the world to come up with some ideas even worse than what was here before the flood. Replies. High-Tech Hippie said, good stuff, bro. You speak the truth. April Lockaby Radford said, I agree. And Jennifer Muser said, could not have said that any better. Back to post. Booster Gold said, I have read various reports on BFRO and other websites about encounters with creatures ranging in height usually from 7 to maybe 10 feet tall. However, there was one report that caught my attention when reading through these stories. Back in the 70s, there were some hippies who went camping in a remote wooded area. The first night while camping, they claimed the creature they encountered was 14 feet tall. They cut the camping trip short and decided to leave the area at first light. However, before leaving, they decided to measure the tree branch at where the creature's head met the branch, and by their measurements, this creature was approximately 14 feet tall because the branch of the tree was 14 feet from the ground. Up until now, I thought it was some sort of Bigfoot anomaly attributed to how some humans are extremely taller than others. I appreciate this clear presentation because now I can revisit some details that I dismissed in my readings. On another note, Maybe this is how the dinosaurs actually went extinct. The giants ate them, lol. Booster Gold said, "This broadcast just gave me an epiphany. This is why in some remote areas you will see large rotund trees completely uprooted and planted back into the ground upside down. Something that would be impossible for a regular Sasquatch who is only 7 to 9 feet tall. I'm talking about whole trees that are 15 to 20 feet tall. It would definitely take an individual who is 14 plus feet tall." Replies. Jeff Coker said, "There's no such thing." Francis Busa said, "It is the eeriest, creepiest thing to see those big trees on Prince Edward Island off the coast of BC that decades ago were uprooted and stuck in the ground upside down. I think that they said this happened back in the 30s or 40s. I agree, it must have been done by a mountain giant. How big does one of those characters have to be to do such a thing?" Brian McCann said, "The tusk-toothed giants have had different names over the years. Trolls, Jotuns, giants, Oni, and many more. The various small people, gnome-like beings, also exist around the world today. Most are aggressive and deadly, like in ancient folk tales and myths, not the modern nice hobbits, leprechauns, and elves of childhood versions." Canadian MMA Guy said, "Francis, I thought you were talking about the province Prince Edward Island. I see lots of tree breaks here, but we don't have deer, elk, or seals for them to eat." Francis Busa said, "MMA Guy, well, evidently they seem to have some kind of food source there off the coast of BC. People there speak of those beings, whether Sabe or mountain giants." Back to post. Targeted Truther Girl 6726 said, "There are too many ancient texts that prove we had giants on the earth. So no man can say there is no such thing. That is pure pride when you think you know it all. Stay green and you learn, get ripe and you rot." Targeted Truth Girl also said, "Watch Thinker Thunker. He will make you think as he points out a lot of good info. Also, the audio Ron Moorhead captured back in the 70s and had the audio tested and proven to be real. The government could have gotten DNA from bones and creating giants, monsters, etc. You can't say the government isn't creating freaky stuff. Mankind is very prideful and think they know everything when they don't. So much being talked about is opinion, and we all have an opinion." Wave Ular said, "I don't think cyclops are real. I think that is truly a myth." Pavlov's Sheep said, "In old Greek mythology, Cyclops ironically had 3 eyes, 2 normal eyes and a different third eye that allowed them to perceive more or all." Andy W. 237 said, "Maybe the bent-down tree trunks are a territory dispute between giants and Mr. Foot." Shaggy McScraggy said, "There is an Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime story called Taramuli, the Giant Quinkin, that talks about a massive, man-eating, hairy giant, and he is depicted with claws on both hands and feet, and with large fangs or tusks." Replies. Brian McCann said, "Japan has one-eyed Oni with tusks or fangs that's 12 to 18 feet tall." Rogue Replicant said, "In Thailand they are called yak and are always depicted with boar-like tusks." Back to post. Shaggy McScraggy said, "I am an Australian Aboriginal, originally from Western NSW, currently living on the East Coast now. My grandparents used to talk about the little hairy men, like they were as common to see as a dog or a cat. Only recently have I heard of this kind of behavior from Yowies, head pulling, near my current location. An off-duty fireman was found propped up against the back wall of the fire station with no head. His head was found about 100 meters into the bush, with his spine still attached. So that sounds a bit mountain giant-y to me. Where I live now is quite mountainous." Replies. Sapiophile said, "I've heard of Sasquatch doing the same thing in a kill, the head, spine thing." Hopsta 5628 said, "A man's decapitated body was found behind a toilet block in Queensland, and his head was found about 50 meters from his body. Reports say it appeared, due to the injuries, his head had been ripped from the body and thrown into the scrub nearby. Bride of Christ said, I live in Sydney. Where exactly can I find them? I've heard stories in the Blue Mountains. Shaggy McScraggy said, Bride of Christ, I couldn't tell you an exact location, but yes, I've heard stories of them getting around in the Blue Mountains. Although I have also heard that they are quite aggressive in that area, so I wouldn't suggest actively looking for them. They are more human-looking ones out that way. Back to post. Ajax Ashford said, They come from underground. Think about it. Alaska has monsters. The mountains in the east of Alaska hold huge mysteries. A giant pyramid was found in Alaska years ago. It's all connected. Reply. A rising Aboriginal said, The world is bigger than we think all around. Every square inch of unit is not discovered everywhere on Earth. Back to post. Alpha Omega said, Great episode, until he started dissing the spiritual, interdimensional components. But I forget about stuff like that as soon as I hear your awesome music at the endings. Replies. Bomber411 said, Some people don't believe these creatures to be interdimensional. It's harder to believe they are than not. Ultra Gold Coin said, I don't understand why people get mad when spiritual or alien or dimensional talk is mentioned. It's a plausible theory to where these things come from. I wasn't a spiritual person at all until I had a demonic encounter or encounter with a negative entity. It opened my eyes to the world we live in. You absolutely can't ignore it. Not every cryptid observed is a natural flesh and blood creature, especially when people say some cryptids like a dogman or Bigfoot even, plus other cryptids have disappeared into thin air or done things not natural. Back to post. J.C. Dova said, I am from Lompoc, California, and the local Chumash Native Americans talk about two legends. There is the red-haired giants who stood up to 25 feet with 6 fingers and 2 rows of teeth. There is also the typical hairy man, which we all know as Bigfoot. There are actual newspaper clippings of the 1830s of skeletons of these red-haired giants being unearthed. Starling Swallow said, I wonder if the frequency weapons the special ops man talked about is the 5G that is being installed everywhere. Interesting. Carl Fulton said, to have the frequency weapon would indicate that these creatures would have to have been captured and experimented on to the point of torture. Scumtunes said, Duke is good. His voice sucks you in. Great, crazy stories and channel. Mimi JJ said, Where are these bodies? Have any been found? Replies. Grand Old Soul said, Bones of giants have been found. Denise May said, If you find a body or kill one and they don't want you to have a body to study or show other people, you won't be able to keep one. Guaranteed. Back to post. Alex MW1 said, Funny, he didn't believe in Bigfoot until he saw one. Well, when he experiences all that other stuff in repetition, he'll understand that the world is a tad more complex than his understanding of the world. Spa Vivo said, Really? An 8-foot animal roaming around North America without a body or good video footage is bad enough, but a 20-foot tall creature? There would have to be thousands of these for a viable population. The Ronin said, I've always known those dogmen are not from Earth. Too unnatural. Not even evolution could create those monsters. Scary thing is how smart they are. Good thing Sasquatch is really big. H. Brown Eyes said, Where is the picture of the giant footprints? Reply. Andrew Mills said, I think I saw them on the Sasquatch Chronicles website under this episode. There isn't a point of reference next to them, so it's hard to tell how big they really are. Spiritus said, I absolutely can resonate with this talk about the giants on so many levels. I live in the Midwest and have frequented neighboring states of Wisconsin, Ohio, Illinois, and have a fascination with the mounds people who I've surmised possibly could very well be the giants. They have built Serpent Mound in Ohio and the Aztlan Pyramids in Wisconsin. This past summer, my husband and I went to Lizard Mound County Park, right outside of Janesville, Wisconsin. Well, off the main path, but within eyesight, there was another crude path in the trees that looked like something incredibly tall had walked through, pushing the trees aside to form a V-shaped path into woods. The V pathway was about 15 feet high and pretty narrow for the height, hence the V shape. My husband and I both saw this and thought, could it be giants? But obviously questioned this notion, seeing as Janesville and its surrounding towns is a relatively well-populated area with not an incredible amount of forestry. Just thought I'd share for anyone who is interested or might have been there and saw the same formation in the trees, or even if someone has a good reason for this. Reply. John Irvin said, Northern Wisconsin is interesting. I think I may have seen a thunderbird there. Back to post. Mr. P.J. Fury said, don't forget that these giants do not have the same strength ratios as humans do. Like they have all that primate DNA. They are very, very strong, supernaturally strong, and they may even have some supernatural knowledge. Fallen angels made them, so it is possible. Brandon H. said, here's a good question. Why would the government keep these beasts, wild men, wild women, a secret? Replies. Liverpool FC Slayer said, well, think about this. Let's say the powers that be knew about them, and they still allowed the population to go camping, walking, hiking those forests. Imagine the lawsuits, knowing there's something out there that's that dangerous to humans. Then you have PETA. Logging would stop. So many reasons. Alan Taylor said, economics of recreation industry, logging industry, mining industry. Look what happened as the result of the spotted owl. Then imagine the same thing, but instead of a bird, you've got an actual people. Winter Wolf said, because it would prove the Bible is true. Back to post. James Albrecht said, every legend is based on a reality. This show reminds me of the stories of ogres and trolls. User BW8HW5CM5C said, sounds like the biblical Nephilim, a crossbreed between humans and the, quote, sons of God, according to Genesis 6. The tusks sound really scary, and I'm sure most would crap themselves were they to stumble upon an 18-foot giant wielding a club and charging at you. Cassandra Renton said, you should research the legend of Judakula, translation, slant-eyed giant as told by native Cherokee tribes. Francis Busa said, read the book of Enoch. It's all there, their origin, their nature, and everything else. This is not difficult if you truly have an open mind. Also, Google Giants of Guadalcanal. The islanders of the South Pacific know all about them, but arrogant Westerners just scoff. Replies. VIR Powrider said, I agree 100%. 1372 Eda Peach said, Amen. World Bigfoot Radio said, Guadalcanal and surrounding islands, lovely place. Bone-crushing saltwater crocodiles, headhunter and cannibal native tribes, and giants that eat people. Vacation paradise, LOL. See Solomon Island Mysteries by Marius Borayan. Back to post. VIR Powrider said, what uneducated people cannot comprehend is exactly how large and vast our lands are. Not just in the lower 48 states, but Canada and Alaska and so on. There are so many acres of raw, unexplored land that many miles exist that have never ever been walked on by humans. Just examine Google Earth to get an idea. VLD 7850 said, they are Nephilim or their descendants. Justin Splexer said, it's hard enough with the government to prove to people that Bigfoot and aliens exist. It'll be light years till mountain giants get recognition. UFOs Identified said, the reason these engineered Bigfoot creatures have been around forever is because they are engineered by non-humans. They are the fourth most described beings on board UFOs by human abductees during hypnotherapy. Brian Rose said, This is the most fascinating episode to date. I still don't understand if these YouTube podcasts are bootlegged, but I keep watching them. Are these mountain giants responsible for people disappearing from our national and state forests? Sasquatch don't seem to be taking them. Sasquatch aren't exactly our forest buddies, but most of their aggressive behavior is to drive people out of their territory, not to devour them. They seem to just want to be left alone. Mountain giants may be a related species, but their behavior is something else again. If these giants interbreed with Sasquatch, that could explain why some Sasquatch are more aggressive than others. There would also be some overlap. From what I've read and heard, there seems to be a wide range of size and aggressiveness. Of course, there would be lots of individual variation among personalities of these intelligent primates too, just like there is with humans, from Gandhi to Jeffrey Dahmer. I've long suspected genetic engineering under top-secret government control has much to do with these so-called cryptids, genetic manipulation of creatures that have been here for millennia. Their origin is a question that will likely never be solved, as whatever they were originally has been scientifically interfered with, so their DNA yields confounding results. The mystery just gets deeper. I know just enough now to be terrified. I'll keep studying crypto phenomena from the safety of my suburban living room. Joe Sanchez said, Smithsonian Gate. Nephilim, they have stories of having red hair and 6 fingers. I've heard that's where the Native American how greeting started. Note to listener, he is referring to the practice of holding up the hand to allegedly be able to count the number of fingers. Pirate Style said, underground layers. I have a feeling even Sasquatch might live in caves too. There are some underground water caves here. We are tapped into one. I wonder if the reason why we notice them more around here in fall, winter, and early spring might be because the rain causes those caves to run water. Just a thought. Great show. Horace Lackey said, not natural, not God, not by man, leaves demonic or alien? So why? In being released here, why? Julie Beale said, Crypto Reality has a couple of posts on YouTube about the hair. I've watched both episodes and it makes a lot of sense. If you want to know how Bigfoot or these giants blend or cloak, watch their episodes. You will learn a lot and they aren't super long and get to the point. User US6IN5HD said, no joke, a co-worker of mine said that she had seen one in Montana. Replies. Scourge said, details? Original poster replied, I can't give full details because she didn't really give full details. She said he was about 20 feet tall and he looked like he was searching for something. Back to post. Freedom 421 974 said, Number 1, why is it hard to believe that Bigfoot could go through a portal or levitate? I mean, we're talking about unbelievable things like Bigfoot and giants. Anything is possible. I don't like the self-righteous attitude. Anything is possible. Number 2, I think Bigfoot, giants, Dogman, and all other cryptids are demonic anyway. Yes, Bigfoot is demonic too. BRI Manhunter said, Wes, once you realize and accept the Book of Enoch, Noah's flood, and the fallen angel, everything makes sense. This is what the scientist was trying to give you a hint about. Everything is related, and this is the rabbit trail to Pandora's box. Ruffian Rocco said, In my time in the Finnish Defense Forces, which trains a lot of woodlands warfare, I learned that it is astonishingly easy to hide in plain sight if you have even a bit of camo on you and you are not expected to be there. Being able to blend in the environment, even a little, could be really hard to spot even from close range. Eric Woodley said, The big cover-up is because they are a type of human. Paula Howell said, Hold up, you're sitting here talking about giants, and you call someone else a conspiracy theorist? Okay. I know they exist myself, but after seeing the truth for myself, I wouldn't be mocking others about being conspiracy theorists. No offense meant. God bless you and take care out there. Reply. Kirby Hearts Zumba said, "Finally, someone says what I was thinking. I don't like criticizing anyone, but as soon as he started saying he didn't believe in the levitation or interdimensional travel of Bigfoot, followed by him not believing in Bigfoot until he saw one, I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding. He believes in giants, but has never seen one? How can he be on this show mocking others about their ideas when he even said no one is an expert on these topics, including him? I really don't enjoy listening to anyone mock people when the truth is none of us know with any certainty everything about any cryptid." Back to post. Michelle Marie Perez said, "I believe there are more than two types of giants. I believe there are monster creatures of various sizes as well. There is so much we haven't learned about our Earth, both inside and out, including in the oceans, lakes, and rivers. So exciting, all this knowledge we are learning these days. Best wishes of love and peace to everybody." Jody Schaefer said, "Red-haired giants came from South America or went to South America. Brian Forrester and L.A. Marzulli's most recent trip to Peru showed an elongated skull with red hair still attached, over twice the size of all of the other skulls in a small museum belonging to an elderly man that I believe found them in the caves in the Andes. I believe it was Brian that just by coincidence did a documentary about the end of the Ice Age when a land bridge broke and Lake Missoula drained and cut it way down the Columbia Gorge and Hell's Canyon, the Snake River. It's also connected the pyramids in North America. The story Princess Winnemucca told about the red-haired giants in Lovelock Caves, which was at the edge of a huge inland sea. If I remember, it drained when the ice melted and helped carve the Grand Canyon. But I believe at one time the Aztec migrated north, or some did, and built our smaller pyramid of the sun. And with the Native Americans, possibly, and created the huge city with the mounds and Serpent Mound. I don't know, it is just all so coincidental and connected. I live in southeast Oregon, where the north end of the Paiute Reservation is, and there's so many questions. I have many stories my dad told me in the 1930s. He was an engineer/conductor on the trains down the Columbia Gorge, and then on log trains in eastern Oregon, northern Idaho. All this new stuff just blows me away, because I always thought my dad that passed in 1999 was full of it. Then came the internet. Alb7046 said, "Up here in Canada, they exist, in the boreal forest and mountains. They are real people." Angelique Hammond said, "Brian Forrester, Rob Skiba, Steve Quayle, and L.A. Marzulli all thoroughly researched giant origins." Theronash7269 said, "Dan Aykroyd spoke of them when he worked as a mechanic in the Nahanni Valley in the Northwest Territories. Dead Man Valley, Headless Creek, Headless Range, and the Funeral Range around the South Nahanni River." Ralph Falston said, "Does anyone know about the shows that got taken down? What information was said?" Hopeful3505 said, "The Anastasi were wiped out by the giants. They started to dig into hillsides and mountainsides for protection from them, but in the end they were wiped out by them." Chuck Pointer said, "I like the fact you say a military person alluded to some other beings gene-splicing creatures." Everett Menard said, "At 9 minutes in, he speaks of people disappearing on a regular basis if they weren't out in no man's land. Truth is, people are disappearing on a regular basis. Clothing found in trees as well, etc." Kathleen Running said, "Downtown Calgary on 6 have their statue of giants that mated with the Blackfoot tribe Indians. They are the biggest and toughest in North America blood tribe, Alberta, Montana, etc. God bless everyone. Genesis 6:4. Brandon Neely said, "Makes me think a lot of the myths of old were factual stories." Replies. Tom Bourne said, "Just like dogmen today, they used to be called werewolves, or the things people call the rake. They used to be called ghouls. Very much truth to all of it. I've encountered a werewolf myself and have a picture of tracks larger than a dinner plate. Gigantic." Smart Travel said, "Some are totally real. Search for the Kikiwas story. I think it's legit." Deborah W. said, "There's usually always some truth to a myth. You just have to research and try and find the truth." Back to post. Ringelrum said, since 1985, over 52,000 people have disappeared without a trace in what's now in the Alaskan Triangle. That's a fact. In national parks all over the United States, there have been thousands of mysterious disappearances, documented in the book series and YouTube adaptations of Missing 411, also seen on Coast to Coast AM. Bigfoot Michigan Bob said, what is the other mountain giant show episode number? Reply, Raymond Kisner said, it might be episode 66. Back to post. Bulky Hippie Not Bolt said, I watched a different program where an older man had taken a cast of a large footprint that had 4 toes. It was from the Nass Valley in British Columbia. I believe he was more or less discounted. Hearing this podcast makes sense. Head 318 Hunter said, at 5627, exactly. When you hear details in regards to size, appearance, behavior, locations, etc., and you get these same details from multiple, unrelated sources from over a long period of time and or many hundreds of miles apart, then it really starts to sink in that there might be something to this. Just like people from all over the globe over the past 100 plus years who have hand-drawn quote-unquote gray aliens. I came to this conclusion about the upright walking canine, aka Dogman, after listening to 275 plus episodes of Dogman Encounters Radio. There's a number of episodes that I'm not totally sure are legit, but for the most part, these eyewitnesses seem for real. I'm new to this mountain giant subject, and it sounds fascinating, yet scary as hell. VIR POW writer said, people don't realize just how massive these lands are where these creatures are said to live. Some of our national parks are humongous. Thousands of square miles of mountains and wilderness that never gets walked on by humans. In the U.S. and abroad, plenty of raw land for something like this to live and thrive. Gloria Joe said, these creatures are different than Bigfoot and a lot more aggressive. My poppy, my great-great-grandpa, told me in all their travels they have bumped into 3 different kinds of Bigfoot, some that are over 12 feet tall, some are smaller, in different color, and some have powerful smell. Some smell like rotten flesh or kind of like a rotten dog. The ones we have up here are between 10 to 15 feet tall, and that we were warned about the rogue ones. These are the ones who are set out on their own and more aggressive. And the ones across the world, like in places like Japan and China, the people who live way back in the mountains live with these very small ones who look very different from ours, and these ones are very mean. They throw rocks and are very good at throwing them. They try to stay hidden, and if you disturb, they will attack and chase you down. So I do believe there are many different kinds, and like Gramps said, the reason people are seeing more because of fires, destruction from logging, and more campsites being open and more people moving that way into the bush and clearing a lot of land. Michelle Lycian said, this being an older show, is Duke now a confirmed flute player? I have heard him go back and forth contradicting himself on the woo issues. I wholeheartedly believe these beings are Nephilim and have interdimensional abilities to one degree or another, depending on the individual's gene pool. I hope by now he has picked a side. John Franklin said, Ron Moorhead claims to have come across 26-inch tracks at the Sierra camp. Solera SLE said, Mike Zasky found hair from his Bigfoot research area, and it has the same properties Duke was talking about. Under a light, it changes a multitude of different colors, and it might explain why we have such a hard time seeing them with our naked eye. He's got a video and lots of pictures on his Patreon. It's under Crypto Reality if you're interested in checking it out. The Contingency Plan said, not buying the military guy saying Dogman was created more recently by scientists. The Sumerians, pre-Egyptian, wrote about these things. Avi May said, Nahanni National Park, Canada, the Valley of the Headless Men, Indigenous people will not go there. Chrono 2959 said, they're removing specific organs before they try and transport them. That makes you think like if they don't remove them, they will come back to life, or is it toxic to us? What is the reason for removing those organs? Do they need them for stem cells? Why? Maggie Brooks said, compared to a 15-foot tall mountain giant, we would be as grasshoppers. Croatian Don Juan said, I go to the Coloma area often, to Gold Pan. That place has always creeped me out, long before I saw this video. I've also been to Lovelock Caves, ironically. The Thule Eaters lived there. They stole babies from the natives and ate them, mashing them up on rocks to make them palatable. The natives attacked and burned them alive inside that cave. They found hundreds of broken arrows inside, and it's still black from the fire. This story of the attack was told to me by a native I met at a Paiute gathering a few years ago. His ancestors passed the story down. I don't know how you can ignore this stuff. Scott McPherson said, I live in Canada. Headless Valley is a dangerous place. It's a park now. Lots of stories from up north. Headless Valley is full of caves, miles and miles of caves. Darlene Ferguson said, there's so many accounts from people. You can find more on How to Hunt the Facts, Tell My Story. Steve Isdall. He represents the people. Popeye 5808 said, I've heard a couple of stories where a Sasquatch watches you, keeps their eyes on you while running away on a slant, rugged terrain. How is it possible that they don't need to see their next step? Why do their eyes glow red? These things are Terminators. Styles 5311 said, these guys need to watch the movie 13th Warrior. There are some similarities of what they're saying involved in that movie. Miss Kittens said, this isn't meant to be funny, but the character Chewbacca from Star Wars can't help but wonder if that character is based off of a Sasquatch. Cess678 said, I saw a mountain giant in Alaska in 1998. I estimate it was 20 to 22 feet tall. I saw it from about 150 yards away. Got a pretty good look at its backside, but not its face, since it was walking away from me. It was covered in hair and built like Shaq. Georgie Lockhart said, has anyone heard about the Canadian man who was potentially murdered by the government after catching a giant on video in Jasper, AB? He has a video recanting everything but appears to be doing it under duress, then posts another video saying he won't be intimidated, and his videos were in fact real. A week later, he was dead. Andrew Watchorn Dawson, to anyone interested. Thanks for stopping by. If you need to reach me, my email address is posted in the description of this episode. Also there in the description, I shared some information about a special film you may want to know about. Share your knowledge, care for your neighbor, and destroy the suppression.